Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 5 Minutes PM podcast. Today, I'd like to discuss the early closure of a project. Of course, this is not a happy situation because nobody starts a project thinking that the project can be shut down in the middle. And the first thing we need to understand is why this can happen. So usually the process of early closure of a project is due to the crisis process. And what is a crisis? In the very simple way, a crisis is some variations in the project environment that you cannot tolerate. Simple like that. For example, you have some time variations, some cost variations, or some market variations that you cannot accept, that they change the game where you planned your project. So let's give some examples. The first one, let's suppose that your project relies on a very key supply. And let's suppose that this supply is not available anymore, or the price of this supply increased sharply. So the commercial conditions of the project you were developing, or the business case, or the break-even point of the return on investment is not valid anymore. So you cannot continue on that project. The second example is market conditions. There is a difference. For example, the government creates, for example, a new tax, or one country stop doing trade with another country, or there is a major terrorist event that could change the landscape of the international trade, and then you cannot move with the project anymore. When I tell you this, what you should do, the first thing you need to understand that when I'm talking about early closure, I'm talking about stopping the execution, but I'm not talking about stopping the closing process. So early closure means you move to the closure earlier than what you expected. It's very important because it's so common that people just abandon the project. They just leave the project. It's very important that you understand that when you are in a crisis and you need to early closure a project, that you need to do the closing process. You need to demobilize the team. You need to register lessons learned. It's extremely important. Do you know why? Because if you do not do this process properly, what will happen? Your organization and yourself may face the same challenge in the future again. And by far the most expensive way of learning is it with your own mistakes. The price is extremely high. So I want just to remember one quote that one friend of mine said about mistakes is that at least learn in the first time you do the mistake. It's not a smart decision to do the same mistake twice or 3 times to learn it. So it's very, very important. This is why we need to capture the lessons learned. We need to demobilize the team. We need to release the assets. We need to sell the assets, or we need to transfer the assets to make sure that we reduce the damage, that we try to liquidate most of the damage, and also that we learn from our past, sometimes dramatic experience. Think about that when you're facing this challenge. Just don't give up everything. Move to the closure and learn with your mistake. I hope you enjoy this podcast. See you next week with another 5 Minutes PM podcast.